What's going on, Bulls Nation, and welcome into the CHGO Bulls podcast, presented to you by PointsBet. Don't forget that promo code CHGO when you sign up your PointsBet account to live your bet life and get those two risk-free bets up to $2,000. Ball night, Game 3, NBA Finals tonight. You know I'm throwing a little action on my PointsBet app.
On there.
A little bit. All
right.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Peck. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Peck. That right there is my guy, Big Dave. He's on Twitter at Bow, BAWL Sports. Oh, and throwing in the backup vocals to the Bowls in the magic bubble. Bow! Is our goat, Will Gottlieb. Follow him on Twitter at Won't Gottlieb. We are CHGO_Bulls on Twitter.
Will, hold on. Will, I got to give you the Joey treatment now, man. Because Joey has absolved himself and removed himself from me messing with him for saying ball but not having a ball hoodie. He picked up a ball hoodie. Now, Will, there's only one left. Only one more person in there, Will. And that is the Will the Thrill in Brazil that ain't picked up his hoodie yet, sir.
Do you guys ship to South America?
Anywhere in the world, to be honest with you.
But you're going to be back in the States like next week,
yeah, you don't
right?
need it now.
I feel like you should just
you can
order
wait.
it now and have it shipped to your place in Chicago, and then it'll be waiting for you when you get home.
Take your time.
Put a link, Dave, in the chat on YouTube so I and all the other viewers can go order a ball hoodie. Because that's exactly what I'll do.
That man's always thinking about flexing, and I like it so much, man, and I appreciate that.
That's a flex for you.
I'm not against it.
A flex on your behalf.
Very comfortable hoodie, Will. Highly recommend it. I got black. Maybe, what's the other color? Gray?
White.
Oh, no, red. I don't know.
There's a white one, and then there's these limited editions
Yeah,
that I'm wearing.
the creator's
Right
edition.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have gone with the red with the black print on it.
Right. They're coming. Don't
But
worry.
I went black with red print, and it also looks dope as hell.
There are plenty more limited edition ones on the way. Trust me.
Joey, toss the link in the chat.
Ballsports.com
Ballsports.com.
Boom.
/store. /store.
What up to Darius in the comments who said MJ, Scotty, and Dennis back at it again? I feel like we all know who's who.
Wait, okay. I know you're Dennis. I know
Well,
that's
you're
good.
Michael.
Okay, so Will Scotty?
Will Scotty.
Oh, because he does that. Okay, I get it.
I'm Steve Kerr. I'm just the finisher. You guys handle the rock.
But you're way more important to the championships. No offense to Steve. Love
fair.
Steve.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. He's right. The IQ is high, Will.
I would have said Pax, but I'm not going to say that.
You can't do that, man. You see who's here. You can't do that.
Ixnay on the axe pay. All right, y'all. We're going to have some fun today. First thing on deck is we're going to continue a little bit of the part of a conversation we had with our guy Jason Goff yesterday, which, by the way, if you missed yesterday's show, go check that out on our YouTube channel. Our pal Jason Goff was here with us in studio. One of the things we touched on was the rumors that continued to spread yesterday about Rudy Gobert, the fact that maybe there's some interest from the Bulls in some kind of massive trade with Rudy if the Jazz do continue to break things up this offseason in the aftermath of their head coach Quinn Snyder stepping down. Will, you have a great column up right now on allchgo.com offering all of your perspective on what it might look like and the fact that you, like me, were on the fence on this whole Rudy Gobert idea, and then you sort of talked yourself into it being a great idea yesterday. So just tell us how that train of thought happened, because I am still riding that fence on whether or not I like this idea or not.
With you.
And
So
you seem to have with all of your faith leapt over to the other side of that fence and said, yeah, F it, let's do it. Why?
Yeah, I decided it was time to pick a side. And once when I initially saw the report, it was like the sticker shock. It's like, okay, you're giving up Patrick Williams and Kobe White and Vucevic just to get this max contract, one-dimensional center. Like, of course, that sounds kind of bad. But I put some thought into it, and I did a lot of research, and I think it kind of comes down to a couple of key points. And where you fall on these is kind of going to determine whether or not you think it's a good idea. And I'll just say up front, like, I don't think this is an obvious no-brainer, and I don't think it's a situation where the Bulls would be complete idiots to not do it. So there's no real wrong answer, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to weighing what you think Patrick's potential is. Do you think that he could be a star player? When I say star player, I'm talking about all-star, top 20, top 15 player in the league. Or do you think he could be just kind of like an above average starter, like maybe a top 60 player in the league? And obviously there's in between there. But if you think he's going to be a top 15 player in the league, then you probably shouldn't make this deal, right? Because that's a really good player and you don't want to give that up. For me, I'm not sure I'm there with Patrick. And again, I don't think that's a knock on him, but I just don't know if I see that quality of player. I think he could be good. I think he could even be great. But there's a ton of uncertainty there, and there's a lot of certainty with how good we know Gobert is. I think the narrative on Gobert has swung a little too far. Like, this dude is insanely good and basically is a top 10 defense waiting to happen. I think the idea that he gets played off the floor in the playoffs and that he is like an offensive net negative is a little bit overblown. Like, the Jazz defense around him is really, really bad. And basically, he's the only reason why they've been good for the last 5 years. So I think he's really good, and he automatically makes the Bulls a ton better. Obviously, there's a trade-off with the shooting and the floor spacing. But for me, it's just like the Bulls have this window. DeMar is under contract for 2 more years, and he's 32 years old and getting older, obviously. You have this window. Is it better to strike while the iron is hot, go all in? They've already traded picks and players to go get guys to win now. Or do you kind of try to straddle the line and hope that you can build on what you did last year and also kind of have your cake and eat it too, where you can have Pat turn into that top 15 player down the line? For me, that last part feels like more of a risk, more uncertainty there. And so I think adding Gobert puts you in a better position to try to win now.
Well, I have so many thoughts on this. Honestly,
There's a lot there. We can unpack all of it. That's just
that's why we're here. And that's what we're here to do. I'm definitely with Matt. Like, I am on the fence. Like, one day I'm with it, one day I'm not. But I wanted to ask you specifically this, because one thing I know you've talked about a lot, just for the Bulls this season, was the help that they need pretty much on the offensive end. And again, you get a guy like Gobert, we already, like you said, immediately your defense is legit and much better. But do you think there's something he can bring to the offensive end that can actually help this team win?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the trade-off. Vucevic obviously is a more versatile scorer. He's got a three-point shot. He's obviously a better playmaker in pick-and-roll situations. And I think Gobert shoots really well around the rim, but it's a lot of lobs and putbacks. It's not like he's creating his own offense. So what you gain defensively, you kind of lose in some sense on the offensive end. And I do think that's a problem. But I think Gobert is kind of talked about like he's just kind of out there. But he's a real, like, having that kind of lob threat, especially where DeMar loves to, operate in mid-range and pick and roll a little bit closer to the basket, having such a great just like catch radius for Gobert and like the ability to just like go get it. The Bulls don't have that. Like, a lot of times Vucevic was just like floating around the elbow, not really making any sort of like aggressive, decisive moves with the ball. And I think he's a good passer, but there wasn't a ton of scoring threat the way he was playing. And part of that was just that he was kind of in his head. He wasn't making shots. But I think having a really dynamic role man where if you help on DeMar, it's a dunk, it's a lob, it's an oop. And if you don't help on DeMar and you stay home on Gobert to prevent the lob, well, now DeMar's got a one-on-one situation. I think we all know what happens there. So I think you're a little bit less dynamic in the sense that like there aren't as many options. You're obviously not pick and popping for three. He's not going to like make plays out of the short roll the way that Vucevic did, but Vucevic wasn't making his shots. and Gobert shoots 70% from the field, like 70% at the rim. So, he's getting just as many points almost on way higher efficiency, opening up, I think, some more more scoring lanes for DeMar. Obviously, you're going to need shooters around them, but the Bulls need that anyway. So I think it's just a more committed offense to one style. And there's certainly some downsides to that, some cons to it, but you also kind of like have more of an offensive identity. We've talked about this in the past where it's like, what are the Bulls kind of doing on offense? And this would be an offense very much built around that pick and roll. And if you can get the right shooters around them with Lonzo and Zach and hopefully a 4 who can really space the floor, now you've really got something going.
I mean, all of that makes sense to me, Will. I guess like my remaining biggest questions are, I get it. If you make this move and you bring in Rudy, the Rudy Gobert, DeMar DeRozan pick and roll is going to be downright deadly and virtually unstoppable, and that's cool. And it would give the Bulls a foundational identity offensively, which, as you were just noting, they didn't quite have this past season. But to me, like, this past season was a really beautiful blend of, not that they were running the triangle, but just for the sake of comparison, back in the day when the Bulls were running the triangle and found an offense about ball movement, and then also part of that triangle was the greatest offensive player in the NBA at that time in Michael Jordan. And so it was sort of like DeMar and his iso ball heroism blended in with Bulls kind of just being a free-flowing, keep the ball moving, find shooters, find slashers, and kill your opponent in transition offense. And it wasn't well defined. I agree that there weren't like strict borders on what the Bulls were doing offensively this past season, but until they started losing guys, it worked. In its odd way, it worked. I am worried about the monotony and the predictability of DeMar Gobert, pick and roll, 48 minutes every single night. Like, I don't want to watch that. I really don't.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. For me, part of what sort of derailed the identity was the fact that there were so many injuries, and part of me wants to like run it back just to see if they can make that happen. But I do think there's value in having something you can always fall back on and always rely on as super stable offense. So you still have DeMar and his ability to create in the mid-range. You still have Zach. You still have Lonzo, who's a really good ball mover. Maybe you put Gobert in the dunker spot a little bit more and let Lonzo or Zach be the screener. I still think that you can move the ball even if you have Gobert. Like, I don't think swapping Vooch for Gobert does that much to like bog down the offense. Obviously, it's a little bit different.
The passer that Vooch is, Will.
He's a good passer.
That's true. That's true. But I think
He's good.
The way that the offense would have to work would be, it would be less reliant on that. But I don't think that necessarily makes it, a non-passing offense. It's just like coming from a different place.
And I'll tell you what else scares me about Gobert is, well, one, he's turning 30 this month. Happy birthday, Rudy Gobert. And this was pretty much his best year of his career. I'm just talking, numbers-wise. 15.6 a game, led the league in rebounding. The highest field, like you said, 70%. That's the highest he shot in his career, and his best free throw numbers ever. He shot 69%, from the free throw line, nice. Which is great. If he can shoot 70%, that opens up a whole nother rim for him. But what scares me is him going 30. So, because now all I'm looking at is, okay, when is the decline going to begin? Does it start as soon as you get in Chicago? Does it start that decline of going down? Because it sounds like when you get a center at 30, that's 2 years. That's how I look at it. Like, you got 2 years left of that prime, and then, we're going to have some issues. So that kind of scares me because we're kind of going through that with Vooch now, and to a much lesser extent or a bigger extent, but it's not the same. Ben Wallace popped in my head immediately when I thought about this.
You've been scarred too many times.
Yeah.
Somebody hurt you, Dave.
I like how you sound like me now, Will. I dig this.
But also,
but that's how I thought though. Like, right. I thought of Ben immediately, like that immediate success that the Bulls got when they got him,
right?
And then that was it, and then we were done for. And
but there was a lot more money on the back end of that.
Exactly.
Whereas Vooch is on a de-escalating final year of his contract for next season.
So all that scares me. The money, the age, and all that kind of scares me, Will.
4 years,
so
170.
Let me flip that on you then. And what do you do after this year with Vooch? What do you do at the 5 after this year?
Say it again. What do you do at the 5 after this year with Vooch?
Assuming that you just let Vooch go?
You re-sign Tony Bradley. No, I'm playing.
Assuming Vooch is 32 this year, so he's older. He's obviously not in his prime anymore. He's kind of on the downswing there. Maybe he has a little bit more of a bump in his shooting percentages because that was, atypically low for him. But I think Rudy's not young, but he's younger, obviously, and I think his style of play. And I hoped this too about Vooch, but obviously it didn't work out that way. That I think his style of play ages a little bit better because he's not, relied on to do a whole lot on offense other than just dive to the basket and dunk. And then defensively, he is doing that drop coverage that I know has drawn a lot of frustration, but he does it better than anybody else in the league. And I think that's really an important point here is for me, we've talked about Mark Williams and whether, that kind of player makes sense. And for me, I've never wanted to really go down that path where you have just a very, pick and roll heavy offense and a rim protector kind of center where you can't really switch things. And I think for me, Gobert is the exception to the rule there because the gap between what he does as that player compared to what Mitchell Robinson does, who was also named as one of the players that the Bulls might be interested in, compared to what Mark Williams might do, is it's not just that these guys are Rudy's an A and Gobert or Mark Williams is a B. The gap is enormous. And I think people don't really appreciate how good he is at that because the Jazz have been kind of crumbling for the last 2 years. I mean, I think that's another thing too, is their whole foundation has been built around Gobert and everybody else is getting older. The point of attack defense there is getting worse. There's a great video on YouTube by Ben Taylor talking about Rudy Gobert and his ability to defend both the perimeter and whether he gets played off the floor in the playoffs. I just think he is so much better at that than anybody else in the league. And so having that far and away, best in the league rim protection would actually really help the Bulls. And yeah, I think it's just not the same as going out and drafting a guy because there's no comparison there, even though the style of play might be the same.
Joey, you look like you want to weigh in.
Yeah, I have a couple things. I mean, I definitely think there's some concern. Will, you're absolutely right. He's probably one of the best rim protectors of all time and will be a Hall of Famer just based on his defensive contributions alone. Russillo talks about all the time on his podcast, the Jazz defensive rating in the playoffs consistently is not as good as it was in the regular season. I think probably because of the reasons you said. He's not amazing at defending on the perimeter, but I also think it's probably because the Jazz didn't have a ton of good perimeter defenders. One thing I do like about bringing him on the Bulls is if you have Lonzo and Caruso kind of shutting down the two, and they'll have some problems, especially if they get rid of Pat with bigger wings. But I think that would probably be the best defensive perimeter team Gobert has played with. But I don't know. It concerns me to think about a closing 5 with both Caruso and Gobert on the floor at the same time.
You mean from an offensive and spacing perspective?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's where the Bulls front office would have a lot of work to do. Caruso shot 40% on threes his last year in LA, the year before he came to the Bulls, on pretty good volume. I don't have the numbers in front of me. And I think he was shooting a lot better before he injured his thumb this past year. So you hope for some positive regression there. But the Bulls have to find shooting at the 4 anyway. That's going to be a problem of theirs. And so, basically saying, well, Patrick could be that versus let's get an A+ defender. I don't know. I just feel like they have work to do anyway. And so that shouldn't stop them from making a move that helps them in an area of need and makes them a lot better. There are guys that they'll be able to get on the market, I think, more easily with the core of Zach, Gobert, and DeMar. What power forward shooter wouldn't want to come play for the Bulls on a 10-year mid-level exception where you're going to be that guy that, like, may not get to play everywhere else, but gets to be that big wing on a team that has Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan and Rudy Gobert as that infrastructure around you. The Bulls have some ability to go out and get guys in free agency. And I think the other big thing that people have been scared off by with Gobert is the contract. And I guess I'm just at a point where I don't care about money. Like, this is Jerry Reinsdorf's money, not my money. I don't care. And it is a lot of money to put into the center position, which again, in the past and like in general, I'm kind of anti. But Gobert is just so good at it, and I think he will age well enough that contract doesn't look as bad as I think a lot of people might think. And also, it's the same reason that you want to max Zach LaVine. Like, he earned the money. He's a best in the league type of defender, and that's what those guys are worth. And it doesn't affect, maybe the Bulls have to go into the luxury tax, and maybe you're worried that they won't do that, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't still try to go after this guy. So I think they'll have the mid-level exception. They can avoid the tax if they want. It is a lot of money to give to Gobert, but you have to pay a lot of money if you want to have a good team. You got to get good players. You got to pay them. So I think there's kind of rambled on there, but to answer your question, I think they'll have to do work on the margins to add shooting to the team. They will be able to do that in spite of having to pay Gobert a lot of money because, one, he will attract more free agents, and two, they still have the mid-level exception and some other trade chips to play around with. So I'm not super worried about that. I mean, I am worried about it, but not much more worried than I would be if they didn't make the trade, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I want to add something, but I'm going to wait because I know we got to go to a break, but go ahead.
We do. Well, and I was just going to add to that. Yes, obviously, I don't think there are any Bulls fans out there who are like, well, I don't know, that's a lot of money for Jerry and Michael to pay. No. I mean, Bulls fans have been yelling for years about how this is a big market franchise operating like a small market mom-and-pop franchise when it came to their wallets. Yep. And we finally, with the overhaul of the front office, started to look like we were trending in a new direction. And we heard Michael Reinsdorf say earlier this season, yes, if we're competing for championships or close to that, then we have no problem paying the luxury tax. I don't think any Bulls fan is going to be mad about that. To your point, Will, I think the issue I have, and you did kind of mention it, with Rudy is not the spending of the money, but the allocation of funds when you're building a roster. And that being a little bit of a hang-up for me because, my follow-up question is, does this team really need this? Does this team need this player that badly for that much money? When, let's not forget, and yeah, I know they had a soft opening to their schedule, before guys started going down and before Patrick Williams came back, they had a top 10 defense. Without Rudy Gobert, they had a top 10 defense.
True.
Add more rim protection. Add a solid big who can play power forward and play center, who's going to help you defensively, who doesn't cost $170 million over the next 4 years. That's all I'm saying.
Again, they have to do that anyway. They need to do that with Vooch, and maybe Patrick turns into that guy. But kind of my point is that even if he does, it's not going to be during the window where DeMar is playing like this. And if you think that in 3 to 5 years, Patrick Williams is going to be a top 15 player, that's great, but DeMar is not going to be around then anyway. So if you want to win, and you want to win now, that's kind of the cost of it. Like I said, I don't think that bringing in Gobert prevents you from being able to sign other free agents. Maybe it prevents you from being able to trade Pat for somebody else. But I think Gobert is being really undervalued, underrated in this situation. I just don't think people appreciate how good he is. And they may have had a top 10 defense. The way they were playing, if they add Gobert, they're going to be a top 1 defense. They would be so good. And people complained all year about not having rim protection. And then you're going to add literally the best in the league at that. I don't really understand what the frustration about him is. And maybe it's just that people don't like him, which is, I can't really argue with that. If you don't like him, you don't like him. But I think he makes you so much better on that end. And I think he does make you better in some ways on offense. Obviously, in some ways, he makes you less versatile. But I think having that screen and roll, having somebody who creates so much space in those pick and roll situations, like people make fun of it, but like he's the screen assist king. Like he just creates so much offense by clogging up room and creating lanes for guys. I just think he would make the Bulls a lot better.
All right. Well, and I know you have more to add, Dave. And speaking of just how special and talented Rudy is, we have to take a look at where he ranked in a lot of defensive categories this season. We'll do that coming up next. But first, Big Dave.
Yes, sir.
Game 3 tonight. PointsBet.
That's what it is. Sarah, be ready because I'm coming to you. You ready? I'm coming to you. The best way to support CHGO, y'all, is to download that PointsBet app and use that code. What's it called? CHGO. It's right there. Use that code right there when you sign up, because if you do that right now, you'll get two risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not it. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, guess what you're going to get? Take a guess. Guess what you're going to get?
It's probably a free shirt of some kind.
Man, you are a wizard. Yes, you get a free T-shirt, and you get that with that free membership, that CHGO membership, where you can get all that awesome web content. You know that story that had Bulls Nation set ablaze that Will wrote, talking about Rudy Gobert, and everybody was on there on Twitter. That dude on the screen, Maverick on our screen, that handsome gentleman, that guy, he wrote that. You can get all that, y'all, when you sign up with PointsBet using that code CHGO. That's $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, a free T-shirt of your choice, and that's from the CHGO locker, all for making a $50 or more first-time deposit at PointsBet. And introducing, he'll like this, the live NBA same-game parlay for the first time ever. You can build that perfect live NBA same-game parlay, and you do that only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game, and if you want more,
and we know you do,
you can also boost that live NBA same-game parlay, y'all. You can watch live, parlay live, boost live, and partay live with PointsBet. And all these people here in this beautiful city of Illinois, where it is crazy outside right now with this rain.
It's like Jumanji outside right now.
Oh, my God, it's insane, but I am so happy. This is my kind of summer going on right now. Minus that rain, this weather. You see I got a hoodie on with some shorts? Come on, son. This is my thing right here. I love this. You can download that PointsBet app right now, register your account from start to finish. You can do it all from your phone. So what are you waiting for? Because once that game starts, you don't just bet. What they do, Sarah?
You live your bet life.
You're not Sarah.
You're not Sarah.
Big Dave, you're scaring her back here. Put her on the spot like that.
I'm still in training, so you gotta give me till next week, and then I'll get on it.
Oh no, I blame Joey for that. Joey should have told you to live your bet life. He should have told you that was coming up. That's on you.
Blame Joey. CHGO Bulls pastime.
Yeah. I like how he turns himself into the victim.
Oh,
it's really
of
nice.
course,
It's
right?
a good thing. Yeah.
Shout out to Sarah, who recently joined our CHGO family.
Yes. What'd you say, Will?
I miss one day and I lose my live your bet life privileges.
No, Will, no.
That's tough.
Nah, dude, you're just the old reliable.
No,
we always
Will,
know you're there, but sometimes Big Dave likes to spread the love.
Yeah, I got to spread the shot,
the
Will.
wealth.
You know what I'm saying?
Yesterday with Goff, and I did say it out loud to myself in my room when I was watching you guys yesterday.
Live your bet.
I said it. Just want to stay sharp, you know?
Yes, got to be ready. See, I know but sometimes I got to see the other shooters. We get new shooters on the team. You know, I got to get them in the game, man.
Yeah.
That's all. That's
Never
all.
have too much floor spacing.
Oh, no, Will. But never going to
Got to
replace
see if Sarah has a little bit of that Maddie Legend kind of
That's
stuff.
it. Oh, come on. Well, we ain't going to go that far now. You know what I'm saying? That's a rare thing right there. Come on now.
Today's episode is also brought to you guys by Strava Craft Coffee. You want to start your day with a competitive edge? Give Strava a try. CBD Strava Craft Coffee is a game changer that's helped thousands of people improve their overall wellness and quality of life. It delivers delicious, fresh roasted specialty coffee infused with organic, broad-spectrum CBD. CBD, which comes from hemp, doesn't make you high or hungry, but it does offer you real benefits. They can help you feel alert and focused without the coffee jitters. Live your day more balanced with less anxiety, fewer aches and pains. Plus, including CBD in your daily routine can even help you enjoy more restful sleep so you wake up feeling your best. And the best part is that Strava is all about quality. Everything small batch, fresh, and shipped straight to your door. Strava also offers concentrated full-spectrum CBD tinctures for those looking for a more traditional CBD delivery system. Right now, CHGO listeners can save 25% off their entire purchase when you use code CHGO25 at checkout. That's 25% off your purchase at StravaCraftCoffee.com with promo code CHGO25 at checkout. You know who had 2 cups of Strava today? This guy.
Oh,
Love it. Try it.
love it. Try it.
Drink it in. It always goes down smooth.
I forgot that that's how that sound effect started, and it just sounded like someone awkwardly grunting.
It did, actually. You're right. You're right.
Instead of a it sounded like a
right.
Threw me off my game for a second
Yo,
there.
man. Oh, man. Oh, wait. I got you. Will, I did want to kind of say something and ask. It's like a question statement is the best way I can say it. But
Yes, hit me with it.
But with Gobert, and we were kind of talking about this yesterday.
Matt's still losing it.
I know, that's why I had to get him, man. He's in tears over here, man. You got to get him. He's gone too, bro. He out of there. He out there, bro.
Talk amongst yourselves.
He's done, man.
Continue.
But when we had Jason Goff on here yesterday, that's a flex. When we had him here yesterday, the one thing he kept saying, thank you, Will. The one thing he kept saying was, does this are the Bulls a 1-4 team or a 6-9? Because he doesn't want them to be a 6-9. He needs them to focus on 1-4. And basically what that means is, a top 4 team, in the conference. And when you look at those top 4 teams, I'm looking at, the Heat, the Bucks, the Celtics, and Philly. You're looking at those top 4 teams. The one thing all 4 of those teams have in common is a big man. Somebody in that middle. You got Bam Adebayo, obviously, Time Lord, and Al Horford in Boston.
Yeah.
You got Joel Embiid, and then, of course, you got the Greek Freak and Robin Lopez, for that matter. So does getting Rudy Gobert will, kind of put them in that territory with those 1-4 teams, because you're finally having that kind of center that you can say, okay, you got your Embiid, I can actually counter you with this guy? Does it move the Bulls forward, or does it kind of keep them at that 5 and they're still not good enough to get over that hump to be a top 4 team?
Yeah, I think it's still a debate whether you would put them ahead of the Heat, Celtics, Bucks. But I think it does. We saw how well they played without any sort of defensive anchor there. All due respect to Vucevic, he wasn't that guy. And I don't think he was supposed to be. He was there to make sure that the thing didn't completely sink, but he wasn't making them actively better. And I think, with Lonzo and Caruso defending the point of attack, like you said before, this would be the best defensive team that Gobert was ever a part of. And I don't think the Jazz make the playoffs without Gobert playing at that elite level the last couple of years. So I absolutely think it vaults the Bulls into that kind of contention. I think at the end of the season, even though they played well at the beginning, we saw that they weren't quite ready to compete with them. And I know they were missing Lonzo, and I know Zach and Caruso weren't 100%. But I think it was also pretty obvious that they were not in that same tier. I think Gobert puts them in that tier. Now, does that mean that they'll make the conference finals or the finals? Who knows? Maybe. But I think it gets them one step closer. And I think the big thing there for me is whether or not it makes you a conference finalist or a finalist. The Bulls aren't headed that way right now anyway. And I don't think that there's other moves that they can make around keeping Patrick Williams or, without moving any future picks or whatever it may be. I think this is the best move that would reasonably be on the table. And by the way, this may not be on the table. This was a Jake Fisher rumors piece. We don't know if any of this is actually real, but I think from a philosophical standpoint, it's interesting to talk about it because this is a very unique situation. It's a very specific build of a roster. So I absolutely think it makes the Bulls good enough to compete at that level. That's how good Rudy Gobert is. And I think a lot of people don't see it. I think if you put him out there and you watch 5 or 10 games with him playing the way he does with the rest of the Bulls healthy, man, I think they would be really, really tough to beat.
Joey, do you have that graphic that we wanted to share with everybody about just how elite Gobert remained this past season? And some of this is touched on in your column, Will. I mean, just so these are ranks among NBA players this 21-22 NBA season. Defensive expected plus minus, 5th. Defensive Raptor, 1st. Defensive rating, 2nd. Defensive block percentage, 1st. Block percentage, 1st. And then differential of field goal percentage, 1st. So to clarify for those folks, Will, and there is the Stifle Tower, courtesy of Joey.
Wow.
French projection.
Wow. Okay, I'm totally off it now. I don't want him here.
So a differential of field goal percentage being a player's plus or minus of their field goal percentage when guarded by Rudy Gobert compared to their average field goal percentage, correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's basically what percentage did they shoot relative when Gobert was the closest defender relative to what they normally shoot. So Gobert held opponents to shooting 7% below their average when he was guarding them, which is nuts. And it's something that the Bulls don't have. Like, they gave up the most points, the most attempts in the paint of any team in the league on average last year. Like, that was just not a part of their game. And they didn't defend the 3-point line super well. So what are you doing? I think it was kind of a paper tiger their defense was for the first part of the year, where teams were missing shots and Lonzo and Caruso were playing out of their minds. And hopefully that continues. But having that sort of defensive anchor that you can hang your hat on, I don't think those kind of guys are dispensable. So I think he just completely revolutionizes what the Bulls could do defensively. And I think that vaults them into like Eastern Conference contenders like pretty easily, honestly.
Wow, it's that simple.
And I think the one more thing is, like, what do you do? Like, the Bulls kind of made their bet, like they traded Wendell and 2 picks for Vucevic. They traded a future pick for DeMar. They don't have Lauri Markkanen anymore. They have Kobe White and they have Patrick Williams. But, like, the team is built to win now. And Lonzo is young and Zach is 27. But, I mean, we know what this looks like if DeMar is not there, right? Like, he's 32. Vooch is 32. The picks are out the door already, so you can't like bottom out. I don't know where trying to tread water gets you, because I don't think they'll be as good next year as they were this year. And this is the kind of move that really helps you take a step. Maybe it doesn't work out. Like, I don't think nothing is guaranteed, but I think if you're already going down this path, waiting it out or banking too much on potential or thinking it's not going to make you good enough, so what's the point, is kind of like the mentality that Garpax had that prevented them from doing anything. And I would rather be aggressive and go for it. I mean, we're in a window where you have an ability to go for it. And this is not like, I was pro trading Patrick Williams for Jeremy Grant because I felt like this was an opportunity to go for it. And like, Jeremy Grant is nowhere near the caliber of player that Gobert was. And I think at the end of the day, it would have been dumb to do that for Grant. When everybody got injured, it became obvious that was not the move. But even in general, like, I think Grant gets traded this summer and it will be for a lot less than Patrick Williams. But again, Rudy Gobert is so far and away a better player. And what he does to make your team better is so much more impactful than anything Jeremy Grant could do. So yeah, I think this is just like an apples and oranges situation.
And I mean, I am still just looking at this from this part of this idea scares me, and this part of this idea scares me, and this part of me wonders if this is necessary for the Bulls to take their next step. But I don't disagree at all with everything you just said, in that the way that I would talk myself into being okay with this, if hypothetically this happens this summer, the Bulls swing big and make this trade for Rudy. And again, that also is assuming that Utah is interested in a package that resembles Vooch, Patrick, and
frankly, I think
something else.
This deal does not get it done for Utah. Like, I think they would get more, and I think other teams would outbid the Bulls, and more teams would be interested. So
Right.
I think this is pretty unlikely to happen, but it's fun to talk about. I'm all in on
But if
Herbert.
it would be like I would be okay with it because it would be a continuation of this new regime doing things differently than the old one, which is swinging big to try and build yourself as competitive of a roster as you can right freaking now. And I've seen some people in the comments who, like me, like Big Dave, still believe in Patrick Williams, and frustrated by a loss of a season due to injury, but still believe that there is a hell of an NBA player in there somewhere, saying, I don't know if I want to give him up for Rudy, especially if Rudy doesn't get this team all that. How long did the Bulls try for years and generations of building hometown talent, developing hometown talent through the draft? Hometown meaning like drafted, not from Chicago or Illinois. And how often did it fail? Yeah. Like you got to at some point try something different and maybe especially try something more aggressive.
But here's the thing too. I think ahead. Sorry, Will, but here's the thing too. I think, and I don't think this way about it, but I think Bulls fans just look at the big misses when they've made these trades, and the biggest one I'm sure they're going to look at is Jimmy Butler. And they look at that and they're like, see what it could have been here? It could have done that. To a lesser extent, people might look at, Wendell Carter Jr., even though that's dumb. They might look at Wendell Carter Jr. and say that as well. And to an even lesser extent, they can look at Daniel Gafford, which is even dumber, and say those things. But I think Bulls, and I've said this a lot about Bulls fans over the years. Bulls fans love having all their toys but hate sharing them. You know what I mean? They don't like giving them out to anybody, but they want to keep them all. But at the same time, they want your toys too. They want to get better without giving you anything. And that's really not how that works. You're going to have to take some L's in this situation. And that's okay. That's part of growing right there. But in this instance, and I think this is kind of Will's point, it's not really an L when you're getting probably the best defensive center in the league, a defensive player of the year, a multiple-time All-Star.
3-time.
You know what I'm saying? And all this on your team, who is still in the prime of his career,
right,
to move your team forward to try to get themselves to a championship. And he's right, because that's all a hang-up for me is like Patrick Williams. And like Matt said, we're huge Patrick Williams fans. It's like if I had seen it this year, I think I know what side of the fence to be on. And it's the fact that I didn't get a chance to see it, and it was so inconsistent. And then in the last game, when you played all those minutes, I watched you score like 35 and 12 on the team. You know what I'm saying? And then do nothing. You know what I mean? Like, so it's been very inconsistent. So I don't know what to make of him yet. So I'm like, is there one more year in there that I need to see first? So it's those kind of things that hold me back. But at the same time, it just sounds silly for me to say I don't want this elite center that will make my team better immediately.
It's the same thing that happened with Kobe. Like everybody was on board with Kobe when he was running around putting up 20 and 5 on a really shitty team. And then all of a sudden things got real and he wasn't doing it. And like everybody gave up on him. Like, what if that happens with Pat? There's risk in keeping him too, because the intrigue right now is what makes him a valuable trade asset. And if you find out what the intrigue is and it's not good, then he's not valuable and you can't get that player anymore. So obviously it's a risk. And again, like I've said this before, this is not me saying like I'm done with Patrick the way that I think a lot of people feel with Kobe. And they would do this trade if it was Kobe instead of Patrick. Well, that's not how it works. Like the Jazz aren't going to want Kobe because Kobe has proven that he's not good. So I mean, I think you have to like trade good players to get good players in return. And I've said this before too, but like the Bulls have made their decision. They have picked a direction, and floating around in, like Goff said, the 6 through 10 range is going to make them worse because they're out feature picks and they're not good enough. And maybe this still doesn't get you good enough, but I think it gets you closer. And it would suck to see Patrick Williams turn into Jimmy Butler on another team. Like that would really hurt. But I don't know. I mean, that's not a guarantee that he does that. If you could say Patrick Williams is going to be Kawhi or Jimmy Butler, yeah, keep him. But like, you can't guarantee that.
That's the toughest part of this is that you don't know.
Right.
Some people think they know that P-Dub's going to be a star.
Right.
Some people think they know already that he's a bust.
Right.
And all of the rest of us that have common sense know that we don't know what P-Dub is going to be, and that's what makes this potential trade or any potential trade involving him so difficult.
That's like you're investing the chip. You're not giving up on him. You know, like
Right.
you're spending the money to buy a great thing as opposed to like throwing your money down a toilet, whatever. You know, like they're not just like burning it. You're spending it.
Right.
And I mean, I see Super Duper Danko in the comments saying post Gobert era is what I'm worried about. I'm out. I mean, does that change if bringing Gobert here with a core of Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo and crew gets you a chip?
Oh, I'm in. Yeah, and that's
Because then I'm first in line.
And that's funny because he says that, but those are things I honestly don't even worry about because again, I know who I got in the front office. So I don't worry about them not acquiring what they need. You know what I mean? And not getting exactly what they need. Because Will is right. Either way it goes, they still got work to do. They still got holes they got to fill.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about how they fill those holes with Gobert or without Gobert because of my front office. Now, I think it'll be easier to fill those holes, honestly, if you get Gobert. Because teams will look at you even more than they're looking at the Bulls right now. We saw how they kind of elevated on players, level when they got DeMar, when they got Vooch and all that. You get, like Will said, you get Gobert and you throw DeMar and Zach in there, Alonzo, yeah, guys are going to want to come play with that team, like, immediately.
I want to jump in real quick, Will. I was just thinking about something we talked about yesterday a little with Goff, and it's like, with the level of talent that's in the NBA, like it's easy to say, yeah, the Bulls, this wouldn't put them over the edge. How do we know that? Like Boston was 500 in January, and people were talking about splitting up Tatum and Brown. Like I don't think the Bulls have a Jason Tatum on their roster, but like we said yesterday, it's not about just getting that big 2, big 3 anymore. Like it just who knows what the ceiling of this team could be and how it's going to play out, and who knows what Rudy will look like outside of Utah.
Yeah, I mean, there's risk on both sides, right? Like there's risk in keeping Pat, there's risk in sending him away, there's risk in getting Gobert, and there's risk in not getting him. So it's just like, which do you think is the best case scenario? Which do you think is the worst case scenario? And that's why hitting on draft picks becomes that much more valuable. And finding guys like Javonte Green on the margins becomes that much more valuable because if you're spending a lot on your top end players, then you have to hit on the cheap ones in order to have that full roster. We saw what happens when you just have a couple of guys that can play in the playoffs. And that's where all of your resources are allocated. So the more top heavy you are, the more risky it is, but you're also not going anywhere if you don't have talent at the top end. And the thing that I appreciate the most about AK and his front office is that they've looked at players in creative ways and not just like seen the raw production in their current space. They've said, well, DeMar DeRozan is considered what he is, but like if he comes to Chicago, he could be this much better and could help Zach this much more than not playing with DeMar DeRozan. And is that worth giving up a future pick for? I would say so. So it was kind of the same thing with Vucevic. The process was, even though the results weren't great, like I think this is not a Warrior situation where they draft Steph, Clay, and Draymond and just grow this core together and then have 1 year off and then draft Kuminga and Wiseman. Like it just doesn't work that way. That's like the Spurs and the Warriors. And everybody else has to like figure out a way to be competitive or not. And the Bulls have been not competitive for 10 years. And they got super lucky with Derek, and he was kind of that homegrown hometown kid that turned into a star. Like they don't really have that right now. So they need to find another way to build. And that makes, like I said, the draft picks that they have every other year that much more important. It makes the minimum slots that much more important. The mid-level exception that much more important. But to your point, Dave, like I think that's where you feel a little bit more secure in your ability to hit than finding a star. Like you can't do any of this if you don't have that star player. And the Bulls don't have a top 10 player, so they need to have 3 top 20 or 3 top 25. And Vucevic is not that guy right now. Maybe he improves next year if you hang on to him. Maybe Patrick Williams gets there. I don't think either of those are going to happen. So you may as well go get a guy who's already there.
All right. Before we get out of here, we are going to knock off a few more numbers on our Bulls draft history countdown. We got to pick that back up. But before that, Big Dave, tell the people what they should be using if they want to Have a healthy lifestyle.
Oh, well, there's several things. Of course, it's those greens that are athletic. That
Oh,
our
of
guy
course,
Will
always.
always gets on. But there's another thing.
In addition
to that, that also tastes just as delicious and works just as well. And I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and she was telling me she was a vegan. I'm sorry, Matt. She's a vegan, and she doesn't eat meat. And she was like, well, I need protein. She was like, I'm struggling to find some stuff with protein.
Dry steak.
And I said, you know what? I got something just for you. And no, it is not steak, but it is called Owen. And she said, what is that? I said, hey, it's free of artificial ingredients. It's allergen free. It's no gluten or dairy. It's easily digestible. I didn't say the easily digestible part. But yes, I said all those things to her. And she said, that sounds great. I was like, and it comes in an awesome flavor, strawberry, banana, caramel, chocolate, vanilla. Like, it comes in definitely some delicious flavors that you should try. So I brought her some. She tasted it, loved the caramel. She said, I need more of this. And I said, yes. Well, you know how you get more of this? You can get 20% off your first order at liveowen.com when you use that code CHGO20 when you sign up. Why don't you go ahead and be just like her and be just like Justin Fields? I know you want to be like that, don't you? You see that? That was a nice pass, man.
Tight spiral.
Tyson, is that what that was?
Yeah.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm proud
Courtesy
of you,
of
man.
Owen.
Yeah, courtesy of Owen, y'all. That is liveowen.com. Use that code CHGO20 when you sign up to get yourself a wonderful deal. Because a win's a win.
Dave, I actually have a question quickly.
Come on with it, bro.
Does your vegan friend by chance have a boyfriend who can tell us the secret to immortality? Bad Vegan on Netflix,
Shout
ladies
out
and
to
gentlemen.
Bad Vegan.
Bad
the
Vegan.
Netflix doc.
Everybody go watch Bad Vegan.
Dude, that was the water cooler topic this week.
Wow, dude. Wow. I've told so many people about that. The young lady that twists
Right.
my hair, I got to go see her tomorrow. I said, you need to watch that so we can discuss this.
Hey, man. You know what that Netflix documentary taught me?
What's that?
Vegans are dumb.
That's what it taught you?
Yep.
I don't know. It just taught me
That was
taught me
the biggest takeaway and lesson of that documentary. If you go vegan, you will get duped by a con artist and your life will fall apart.
That's true. And the guy who helped it fall apart was a meat eater. Okay, gotcha.
Who succeeded in conning someone for a very long time.
A very, very long time, and put on massive amounts of weight. The meat suit. He had on the meat. How much did you really want to see an actual meat suit, though, watching that?
I did.
I did. Wanted to see that, man. Watch Bad Vegan, Will, while you're out there.
I'm gonna watch on the freaking 72-hour plane ride back.
Home.
You'll have time.
Yeah.
Go ahead, though, Will.
Can we do one quick? I'm seeing in the comments people talking about Mitchell Robinson, DeAndre Ayton, and I think we should just hit on that real quick before we transition to.
Well, we've got about 10 minutes, so good luck with making Ayton and Robinson real quick.
I think that spending $30 million on Ayton is a worse decision than spending $40 million on Gobert. Like he's younger, but it's also much harder to get him. The sign and trade, you'd have to give up Vooch and probably Patrick Williams anyway. It also becomes more complicated because of the base year compensation rules, which prevent the Bulls from taking in as much as the Suns could take back. So that's very complicated. Mitchell Robinson's a restricted free agent. The Bulls can't go get him for anything more than the mid-level exception right now because they're already operating over the cap. So that's difficult. But more importantly, they're just like nowhere near as good. Again, the gap between those guys and what Gobert brings you is so significant. And I think it gets a little bit underappreciated when there are other good rim protectors out there. For sure, those guys are good, but I just don't think they're anywhere near as good as Gobert, and also probably equally unrealistic to get. So that's all I got to say there. We can go to the draft picks.
He said it because Gobert for sure answers a question where
That's
the
true.
other guys don't really. They
That's
just
true.
add some good stuff to your team.
And I mean, Ayton, younger, obviously. You cannot make the argument that Ayton is just as good at Gobert at the things that Gobert is elite at.
You can't say that, no.
Okay. Draft history countdown.
Woo.
So in case you have missed these segments prior, basically what we're doing is starting at 30, every pick in the first round of the NBA draft, going through and taking the winner at that pick, because at most picks there are several. This next slew of numbers that we're going to knock out real quick right now, 25, 24, 23, and 22, it's not the prettiest looking litter of puppies I've ever seen, Dave. So here we have some picks, 23, 24, and 25.
Okay.
25, Sidney Lowe in 83.
Shout out.
Corey Blunt, 93.
Shout out. Champion.
MJ retiring the first time, I was like, Corey Blunt, going to be a star.
Oh, you said that?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I was a 7-year-old kid. What the hell did I know? Turns out Corey Blunt, awful at basketball,
Yeah,
but stuck
bit.
around the NBA long enough
Long
that he
time.
actually had a second stint with the Bulls, the beginning of the Baby Bulls, 2002 to 2004.
Yep.
Corey Blunt was back on that Bulls squad,
Sure
man.
was. He sure was. Got a couple rings. You know what I mean? Played with the Lakers, too.
Crazy.
Got him something there.
Crazy
Shout out.
that he played with the Lakers. 24 there, you see Kevin Stakem in 73. And perhaps one of my, like, soft heart, no reason someone should love this guy other than his name. Dalibor Bagaric.
Bagaric.
3 seasons. 3 seasons with the
How?
Bulls this dude played.
How? How did he do that?
Do you remember Dalibor, Will?
No.
That's the insight I come
remember
here
the
for.
name.
It's all about the name with him. It was never about his game, bro. It really was
The
just all
name
about
is
his game.
legendary, but the game, I
Right.
don't remember.
So some Bulls fans might recognize that name from the Twitter bio profile of our pal Casey Johnson. Have you ever noticed what his bio is?
No.
It is, covering the Chicago Bulls from Dynasty to Dalibor to, and then it used to be to Derek, as in Derrick Rose, and then it was Denzel.
Ooh.
He switched it from Derek to Denzel as a joke. And then, of course, this
guess.
season switched it to DeMar.
DeMar?
But always has been there, Dalibor.
Wow. Bagaric. Man, dude, that was around in the 2000s. I mean, my God. Y'all don't know pain, man. Y'all don't know pain, dog, watching that team for about
Yuck.
4 years, bro. Like, I know it was bad now with that bald-headed menace who was here previously, but y'all, trust me,
It
y'all
was
don't know
literally
pain.
half of the wins. I mean, we're talking about 13, 14, 15 wins in a season compared to 27 with the bald-headed menace, as you like to say. So,
My
yeah.
God, dude.
Glad I don't remember that one.
Fun little fact that I relearned yesterday. So Dalibor was drafted by the Bulls with a pick that they got from the Spurs in the trade as the dynasty was being broken apart.
Wow.
That sent Steve Kerr to the Spurs. Dalibor was a product of Steve Kerr leaving the dynasty.
Wow, dude. That's kind of
Depressing, right?
That's depressing.
It's like-
That's a little depressing. Right there.
It's like at least we got something for Steve Kerr as the dynasty's falling
Right.
apart.
At least we got Dalibor back.
We got 95 games of Dalibor Bagaric,
Oh,
who,
God.
to his credit, went back over to Europe and had a pretty impressive European career.
Of course he did. Oh, my goodness, man. That's just
All right, real quick then at 23, Johnny Baum in 69
Shout
and
out.
Mike Glenn in 77.
Shout out.
Mike Glenn was a big fat nothing. Like his basketball reference page, it's there.
Damn.
There's nothing on it.
damn.
And
Wasn't he a
Johnny
Bears
Baum
quarterback?
played 2 seasons.
No, not Mike Glennon. No.
No, not Giraffe QB.
No.
Johnny Baum played 2 seasons with the Bulls after being drafted in '69 before going to the ABA, where he finished out his professional basketball career.
Now, I got to ride for Mike Glenn real quick because, of course, I went to my brother about this.
Of course,
Had to ask him who these were.
Of
Of
course.
course, he remembers Mike Glenn, who nobody remembers at all.
never played a single game for the Bulls.
Never played a single game for the Bulls, but my brother said
And
he
what
was
is there to remember?
he said he was a great shooter in college, a great shooter. He went to SIU, and he actually had a nickname. His nickname was Stinger.
Stinger the Saluki.
Stinger was his nickname. He was a great shooter. He was the man over there, but never played, man. He never, ever played. And was part of the broadcasting team with the Hawks later on in his career.
What a winner! My goodness. All right,
He hit 8 threes in his entire NBA career. How about that?
Oh, shout
well,
out.
I mean, for way back then,
that's a lot.
8 of 28.
look at
That's
that.
crazy. That's like teams put that up in a half these days.
or if you're the Warriors, a quarter.
Yes, but he did get hurt. I do want to say that Mike Glenn did get hurt, so that has something to do with it too.
Shout out to Stinger.
Yeah, shout out to Stinger, baby.
What a great nickname. All right, so the player that we did want to honor for being the prize of this litter of picks from 25 to 22 is...
There he is.
Of course, our guy, Bobby Crazy Eyes
There
Portis.
he is.
The 22nd pick back in 2015 out of Arkansas. You see there what he put up in his collegiate career as he was entering the NBA draft. Pretty impressive stuff. And then, as you also see, the winner in the 14-15 collegiate season of the SEC Player of the Year. I was pretty stoked when we took Bobby. Like, I remember covering that draft back in 2015 and coming into that draft thinking, if this is the guy the Bulls end up with at 22, I'd be pretty happy with that. I saw him at 22 as a potential steal.
Yeah, I did too. Because when you watch his tape, he just had all the tools, honestly, and it was just about him getting better. That's all it was about. How better can he get in this league? How much can he grow? And does he have that mental to do that? And he showed early on, yeah, he's got the mental to do that because that dude is out of his mind. When he says he gets hyped up for a game by thinking about somebody punching his mother in the face.
It's one of the craziest things I've ever heard.
Wildest thing I'd ever heard. Yeah. Oh, that's
anyone
real,
say.
Joey, it's real. He said this. He said that's how he gets hyped up for a game, thinks about somebody punching his mother in the face. And then he's ready to go out there and play. Wow.
Well, whatever works for you, Bobby.
Yeah, right. Hey, got a ring.
That's
It worked.
NBA champion Bobby Portis.
Yeah,
Put some
exactly.
respect on it.
Who the entire city of Milwaukee and probably state of Wisconsin has just embraced.
Yeah.
You know that after somewhere in the aftermath of the the Bucks winning the chip last year, in the tail end of last summer, they gave him a key to the city.
Wow, man.
Bobby Portis has a key to the city of Milwaukee. That's how much that team and that fan base loves him.
Now, and I just want to say two quick things about Bobby. One, he's also one of my favorites because he punched Nico back to Europe.
Yeah.
And the other
Bye,
thing,
Nico.
And the other thing, I know Will don't want to hear that, but I loved it. Loved every second. Get that dude off my team. But
Had it coming.
the other thing, and I need Matt to flex on this for a second, that Matt actually, and Joey, you probably didn't know this, but Matt actually went bowling with young Bobby Portis out there.
True
Got
story.
on them lanes out there with Bobby Portis, sir.
Who won?
Bobby, by a lot. So it
Wait,
was,
just,
those like...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, so the story is the Bulls players would do those quick, like videos at media day that they would put up on the Jumbotron at the UC, like during timeouts. And then one of them is always, like get to know this player in 20 seconds, rapid fire questions. And one of the questions was, what is something non-basketball related about you that most people don't know? And he said, Bobby Portis' answer was, I am an elite bowler. He said, I'm probably one of the best bowlers in my region. And so my former Locked On Bulls co-host, Jordan Malley, shout out to Jordan, just like we're joking about this because it was the offseason, I think, and we were like, we need something to talk about. Let's talk about how Bobby Portis just claimed to be the best bowler in his region. What is a bowling region? How do you even classify that? And then, so we just like tweeted at Bobby a couple of times because my guy Jordan was a bowler at University of Indiana, competitively, and was like, I think I could take him. So we just tweeted at Bobby yo, man, you want to go? See you on the lanes? And Bobby quote tweeted and was like, hey, name the time and the place.
Yeah, that's so funny.
We got in contact with Bobby's people and organized a bowling event where Bobby showed up. Me and my guy Jordan were there, and we had welcomed our Locked On Bulls listeners and Bulls fans to come hang out with us at King's Bowling Alley right here in the city.
Dude, that's so funny because he sounded like everybody that says that. I did it in college, so yeah, I can take this pro right here.
Right.
I voted college. I can take him. Get out of here.
So they played 2 games, just those 2, one-on-one, Bobby and my guy Jordan. First game, Jordan sweating bullets, right? So nervous. And I think he bowled awful. For his standards, awful, barely triple digits.
Okay.
Bobby, 265.
Damn.
Waltzed in and bowled at 265 like it was nothing.
Wow.
And then I think even managed to top the 265 in the second game. Jordan did better and made it slightly more competitive, but he mopped the floor with him both times.
Bro, damn.
Best bowler in the region, Bobby Portis.
Will, can you bowl, Will?
Not well.
Not well? Okay. All right.
Not well.
Joey, you?
No, but Sarah's a really good bowler.
Sarah's a bowler? Sarah, what's your best score, Sarah?
My best score actually got up to 185.
Okay.
I used to bowl a lot with my friends at school for the last 4 years. So I actually was just thinking it would be pretty interesting to kind of maybe play someone who's good as well.
Should I hit up Bobby?
Tossing it out.
See if he wants to come
Hit up
back to
Bobby.
Chicago.
Yeah, put it on him, man.
I'm really
Kevin
not
might
that
bowl.
bad.
You're not good.
Kev,
Kev's not good.
I'm
Kev's
not good.
Kev's not good.
Man, it's a shame. And like, I know that Bulls fans, as soon as the Bulls season ended, I've been saying like, this roster could use right now Bobby Portis.
Bobby Portis, yeah, man.
Not entirely wrong.
He would be awesome. Bobby Portis would be doing his thing, man. And he was one of those players that you're just happy he did well. Because remember, guys, he turned down that money that the Bulls were going to offer him and bet on himself and then got hurt. And then when he got hurt, he got traded immediately.
Right.
In that package. But what he turned out to be was you're just happy. You don't root for Milwaukee, but you're like, man, shout out Bobby, though. You know what I mean? For actually, betting on himself and winning.
Truly. You see there, it's not like his Bulls career stats were all that impressive. About 10 points a game, 6 boards a game. But he was an intangibles guy that definitely brought a certain level of effort and energy to every single game night.
Yeah.
And he is one of those players in the league right now who's like, I don't care if it's a Tuesday night in February or if it's opening night or if it's round 2 of the playoffs.
Right.
Bobby's energy level, always at crazy eyes.
Always at crazy eyes.
Crazy eyes. That dude
so true.
has earned that nickname.
Yeah, shout out to Bobby.
Real quick, before we get out, go ahead, Will.
Bobby's been tweeting cryptic things over the past hour. So who knows what's happening. He tweeted 49 minutes ago, some things you can't replace ... And then 15 minutes ago, a black image, new profile pic. Could be on his way out of town, sounds like.
Interesting. All right. Yeah, taking some social media cues from his old teammate Jimmy Buckets, apparently. What does that caption mean? Other picks at 22, real quick.
Okay.
John Dixon in 67, whole lot of nothing. Played 1 season for the ABA New Orleans Buccaneers.
Shout out.
Which is not even a name of a city and team that I remember existing.
I want to see that logo.
Dude, it's an epic logo.
I want to see
the New Orleans ABA Buccaneers.
I need to see that.
Mwah, I saw it on the internet yesterday when I was looking up John Dixon, and it's great. Joey's looking for it right now.
Oh, I got to see it.
And then, of course, even more recently than Bobby, you know the answer.
Who was
selected at 22?
Talk to him. Tell me.
Hutch.
Oh, the GOAT.
Yeah.
The great.
Scotty Jr.
Oh my God.
Oh, there
it is.
Oh,
look at that.
It. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Wow, that is, that's a choice.
I'm not really sure the mustache is also covering, like it's his neck, nose, and mustache have all morphed into one.
Yeah, is his lips on his chest?
He doesn't have lips or neck.
He doesn't have lips or a neck. He's got a schnoz and a stash coming out of his nostrils.
But what's that in the middle of his chest?
I think it's a tat because he's a pirate.
Tattoo.
I think it's a pirate tattoo.
Wow, he's made some interesting choices in his life, and that's why he's got that knife in his hand.
I love how the basketball just looks so janky.
Right.
It's like a third grader drew New Orleans on a red, white, and blue basketball.
Last. But your boy Hutch,
Bulls
legend Hutch, given a draft
promise to that guy.
To Hutch. Go ahead.
Never makes sense to me.
He's my boy.
I didn't say it was your boy, Will. I didn't say that. I did not say it was your boy. I didn't. Crutch sore shin, as John loves to call him.
Crutch sore shins.
Whose hairline is still one of the wildest things I had ever seen because it starts at his eyebrows. I had never seen that before, dog. Like, it starts right here, right down there on his eyebrows, and then goes up.
It's like, what if Jalen Rose just took it way too far?
Yeah, right.
That is Hutch's hairline. Just, hey, man.
He said, what if he took it way too far? Yeah, look at that, Joey. Look at where it started. Like, it looked like he trimmed from the eyebrows and then went on up. You know what I mean? Like, it was always strange. And he was always hurt. He never really played. And then one of my favorite moments is when he went to Washington and started flexing because Washington went to the playoffs.
And he posted like that IG live video of him like dancing in the tunnel after the game.
Yes.
It's like, dude, what did you do to help? You're celebrating that the team you got traded to is going to the playoffs. You've done diddly shit.
Diddly poo. He did nothing. And then got traded to Phoenix and did nothing there. And where is he still in the league now? Is he still in?
Sioux Falls Skyforce G
League. Oh, shout out.
That is the most recent stop for Hutch.
Shout out Sioux Falls, man.
So, he's doing good. Man.
Shout out to him, man.
All right, so that's it. That's picks 25 through 22 knocked out just like that. We will continue our Bulls draft countdown as we move closer to this year's draft. And we got some tough calls coming up in some of these picks getting into the teens.
It's going to get fun, man.
In the meantime, one more reminder, go check out that column that we'll put up on allchgo.com analyzing this Rudy Gobert rumor that we've been discussing today. And get yourself a membership by signing up at PointsBet.
Do that.
So that you can read that column. Huzzah. Although, actually, I think that column is unlocked and free for all to read today. If I'm not mistaken. And follow Will on Twitter at Won't Gottlieb. Big Dave is at Bow, BAWL Sports on Bulls_Peck. We CHGO_Bulls. Keep it right here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel, which you should be subscribed to if you aren't already. We got bets at 4:30. We got Bears at 5. We got Cubs pre at 5:30. We got Sox pre at 6:30. Then we got Cubs post game. Then we got Sox post game. Here for you always, our fellow Chicago sports fans. We love you. For Joey and Sarah and Big Dave and myself, thanks as always for tuning in. Will, saving the goat for last.
Oh, well done.
We're back tomorrow at 3 o'clock Chicago time. Will, stay safe down there in Brazil.
Brazil.
Tell Felicia we said what's up. See you, Red. Be good.
Sir.